Hector Bellerin, Bellerin, Hector Bellerin.
Owned by Mustafi. Bellerin, brilliant! 2-2.
Hector Bellerin, Bellerin, Hector Bellerin. Na, 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 na. Dat is het. Ja.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday evening edition of Saved by the Bellerin, the Arsenal football podcast here on the Sports Talk Line Network. I'm Raphael, joining you from the U.S., joined at the moment by Sam in the U.K., although we are expecting more of the London team to come in momentarily. But welcome, Sam.
Hello, mate. I hope you are very well this evening.
I am well. It's gotten cool here, which is a welcome change, but it's not cooled down on the Arsenal transfer news landscape. A lot of head fakes, a lot of rumors, a lot of silly rumors, a lot of stuff for us to sort through. We gave you a Fulham preview on Tuesday, as let us devote a little bit more to what's happening. Let's begin with overall, Sam. It seems like there's a kind of a sense of panic. People are like, oh no, there was rumors on Tuesday that Hector Bellerin was going to go, and fans were expecting that money to come in, and then we're going to go for Houssem Aouar, and then now that the deal with PSG is apparently collapsed. And I think that had a lot of people earlier today in a funk, thinking like, oh no, nothing's going to happen. I think Socrates posted a photo of himself in the new kit, and people are like, oh, he's not leaving, and that put people in a funk. Why don't we begin there, and let's look at the logical story, because I think when people see all these names that they expected to be gone, still on the club, especially a guy like Socrates, who was supposed to be at Napoli by now. But let's bring it back to reality. Let's look at the lineup. Arsenal, as to my count, has I think 2, maybe 3 healthy center backs right now.
Yeah. So in relation to our centre backs, we need to hold off a little bit, because realistically, we've only got Rob Holding, Saliba, and Gabriel Magalhaes. So it makes sense just to have the cover for a little bit. But I just want to touch on the pictures that the players have been posting. Obviously, the club's had its photo call. All the players, regardless whether they're in talks with other clubs or regardless whether they've got active moves in progress, they have to attend that day. Technically, they are still Arsenal players, so you are going to see them up in Arsenal shirts in the pictures. But realistically, it's really not a big thing. You've seen this happen before. People can appear in calendars, people can appear in promotional materials, and then 2, 3, 4 days later, they're gone. So I think that at the moment, it just isn't a big deal. But in regards to the centre-back situation, I think the thing that's holding Socrates up, as you say, is the current lack of centre-backs, and it's just to give us cover probably till after Fulham. So I think ultimately Socrates is going to be gone. But right now, it's just a case of we need that little bit of cover.
Right, and Rob Holding obviously is another player. Well, welcome Freddie into the pod. Welcome Freddie. Good to have you. Good to have you back. We were talking about the sense of unease this morning after the news that the Hector Bellerin to PSG deal had fallen apart, and it had a lot of people thinking, oh no, all these grandiose plans of getting all these players are up in smoke, and the knee jerk sector of the fan base is knee jerking and saying, oh no, not again. And we just have to all take a deep breath, don't we all? I think as Sam was saying, talking about the back line, there's a reason why some of the defenders, the center backs, have not gone out. But let's talk about a deal that does seem to be materializing, that's gained some real traction in just the last few hours. And that is, it appears Emi Martinez is going to Aston Villa. I've seen some stories that Arsenal are looking at David Raya, the Brentford keeper, as a possible replacement. Have you heard much on that?
All I've heard is that the deal for Martinez appears to be going ahead to Aston Villa. As you said, I think it was reported most strongly and most recently by Tom Kershaw at the Independent. And it's very much reported in a way whereby, they've been told something very concrete, otherwise they wouldn't have gone out on a limb like that. So I think we'll probably expect to hear some news soon about that. As for Raya, I think his agent's been talking quite openly recently, potentially in Spain, about Arsenal very much being interested in the player. Obviously Brentford not too keen to sell. It could be one of those situations, it's been suggested, whereby they won't budge on their valuation or won't even entertain a sale, and the player might have to sort of force a move, which is very rarely a situation that a player and a club wants to see happen. But sometimes it's necessary. I think what's attractive about him as a player is that he counts as homegrown, which is important. We all know the importance of that. Don't need to go too much into detail with that. But also, Arsenal have a growing contingent of ex-Brentford staff currently working at the club under Arteta. So somebody that they know, somebody obviously they've. I'm not suggesting that they're doing it because it's favouring him just because they know him, but it's obviously someone that they've got a good relationship with and know very well in terms of his ability. So that would suggest that they're able to form a good opinion of how good he is. So I think definitely one to keep an eye on.
Okay, I'm gonna stay with it. Also, I mean, we haven't talked dollars and cents. We don't really know. We never really know the exact dollars and cents, but it seems that this would be a net positive. I think fans are looking at these moves in and out and trying to piece. Again, we're trying to reach under the couch covers and find 10 million here and 20 million here, and they're obviously they're still holding firm, as we all are. I mean, it's not just random fans, but how can they get a player like Aouar? How can they get a player like Thomas Partey? But this looks like if it does go through, as good as Raya is, and he's young, he's well regarded, this would probably be a net for Arsenal, would it not? If that were to transpire.
Sorry, my headset just was playing up. Can you just repeat the
Sure. I'm just saying, if that cycle happens, if Martinez goes to Villa and Raya does come in, that would, from a monetary perspective, is probably a net positive, a net for Arsenal in terms of money they would get from Villa being less than what they would have to send from Brentford.
I don't know. It's reported that it would be around the same. I think 20 million is the reported fee that we'll get for Martinez, and that's around the sort of figure that Brentford are demanding for Raya. But obviously, it is quite a surprise, really, because everybody's mind has been focused on the fact that we're going to be selling these players and bringing in the outfield players that we want, and now it's kind of like, well, we're going to sell a player for a decent fee, potentially, and then spend it on another goalkeeper. I think it speaks volumes maybe to the amount that the club trust, or the little that the club trust Matt Macey. He's been at the club for a long time, and clearly they don't feel that he's ready to step up and be the cup goalkeeper and play his fair share of games next season. So not ideal having to shell out that much money on Raya, especially in this current climate, where we're not going to get perhaps as much as the club would have hoped for Martinez after his strong performances at the end of this last season. Okay,
well, still, it speaks to the need, as they have with the back line. They want to make sure they have cover in goal. So they certainly don't want to regress in that department, I would say, with so much at stake this season. Sam, let's go back to the big transfer we were all pondering, anticipating on Tuesday that is no longer. And where does Arsenal go from here? I'm talking about Hector Bellerin. Everybody assumed that by now the PSG deal would be further along. And now I think the term you were using with me in the pregame was the deal is dead in the water. I think it was just one description you saw. Is that the end of Hector going somewhere, or is he staying at Arsenal, or are there other possible landing spots for him?
I would probably say it's 90% sure that he's going to be staying now. PSG was really the real big option for him. The thing with the story of PSG is it's a little bit confusing because they come in with a €25 million bid. And then it was reported today that then changed to a loan bid. So I was a bit unsure about that, but ultimately there are still some suitors for him. There was noises of Bayern Munich and Barcelona. Whether it can be seen that either can stump up the money that Arsenal will be after has to be seen. But with Barcelona, they're either trying to do it as a loan and then or trying to exchange a player. But looking at their overall squad, for me personally, I really wouldn't take anybody from them. People will then say people like Dembele, but I suspect if we start asking them in regards to that, they're going to want Bellerin plus cash. But then you've also got to think about the need in the squad for him. Do we actually need him? Not for me personally. There's their right back, Semedo. He's apparently looking to leave. Again, it's a very similar like for Hector Bellerin, but for me, he's not sound defensively, and he doesn't really contribute to attacking either. He's just another right back that's got extreme pace, that's managed to end up at a big club. But ultimately, if it was going to be a case of Hector Bellerin going, I think we need to say to clubs, look, it's either you stump up the money or he's not going anywhere.
Well, keep it in the short term. Again, let's revisit a topic because we were kicking scenarios about, and we're only 2 days away from Fulham. Hector has to figure prominently in Mikel Arteta's starting squad thinking at this point, would he not?
Yeah. As you say, we're only 2 days away. So Arteta's formalising the starting lineup for that game, and then with that, he'll formalise the tactical plan, and it'll be seen whether Hector's featuring in that, which I think that he will be quite strongly, and he'll be a part of the plan in terms of whether we go to back four, stay at the three with a wing back, and what he wants from him when going forward, defending and things like that. So it's a case of now as well with the tactical analysis is that Hector will be studying videos of who he's going to be marking, what they're more likely to do, what the team will be liking to do in certain situations. So with 2 days away, he has to feature prominently, and you have to put him into the group to start preparing for the game.
You would start him, would you not?
I would, yes.
Okay, all right. Freddie, let's talk about another player who's been all over the place, and the fans are all over the place with him. I'm talking obviously about Alexander Lacazette. Early in the summer, it looked like he might be leaving, and in the last week, a lot of chatter he's coming back. Reports out of Spain today, this was in Sport, that he's still very much on Atletico Madrid's target list, although that same periodical had a big story that Luis Suarez is now looking at Atletico Madrid, but then there's a lot of stories that if that's true, then it creates a potential landing spot at Juve. Some other stories that Lautaro Martinez might be leaving Inter and finally going to Barca, a rumor that's been around for a long time. So there's this musical chairs going on with Alexander Lacazette, but when we get right down to it, it looks like Saturday he's going to be probably on the bench, but with the team.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be stunned if he's not part of the squad on Saturday. Like you said, it's anybody's guess where he could end up at the moment. It's one of those ones where the club, as we've said many times, clearly aren't desperate to get rid of him. we all have our opinions about whether he's good enough to be leading the line for us and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Arsenal aren't desperate to move him on. It's only going to be a case of let's let him go if we get an attractive enough offer. Because he's useful to have around the squad as maybe a backup option or to give us a bit of variety that other players don't give us. But yeah, it's going to have to be if there's an attractive offer that comes in. Obviously, as with any situation in the transfer market with a sought-after player or a player at a high-profile club, it quite often takes a few dominoes to fall before that player actually gets moved on. So, like you said, maybe Atletico Madrid, whether they go for Suarez or whether I've seen some reports he might stay at Barcelona. So that could mean that Lacazette can go there. But if they get Suarez, then maybe Lacazette is an option for Juve, like you said. So whatever happens, wherever he ends up, I highly doubt that it will be any time before the sort of closing stages of the window, if you like.
All right. Again, more potential deadline day father for us. And just a reminder for all of you who are watching, if you're joining us for the first time, we haven't been here for a while, we are going to have a deadline day show that runs the length of the deadline day. We will be here in some combination then, and we hope you join us. And, we were hoping that Arsenal would have much of its business wrapped up. It looks like we all could be sweating a deadline day deal or two, as often is the case. But Sam, let's talk about a potential move. Another player who, love, hate, in, out. On Tuesday, it looked like Matteo Guendouzi was another player who was no longer out. He was posting stuff on social media. He was ready to work. We talked about, would you take him back? What's his role in the team if Arteta does bring him back? Now, as soon as the Hector Bellerin to PSG rumor goes cold, the Matteo Guendouzi to PSG deal revives, kind of rises from the dead. Do we know anything? Is this just internet hooey? Is there something to this? I mean, he's got value, but nobody can really settle on what it is. See,
I think PSG has certainly got interest in him because obviously they was gutted to lose him when he was younger. Because obviously he's come through as a youth prospect through PSG, and I think that they've certainly got the definite interest. But again, whether to be seen whether they've actually got the money to stump up what Arsenal want, because I think it's around 35 million again that Arsenal want for him. So it's been reported in GFFN on Twitter. French football has been saying today that he's rejected Atlanta, he's rejected Villarreal, which is a bit surprising considering Unai Emery's there. Unai Emery would again make him the centrepiece of that squad. He's rejected Valencia. So I think Guendouzi at the moment is waiting on one of two options to see whether or not PSG stump up the money or whether Barcelona firm up their interest in him. But previously with their manager beforehand, I think that would have been the case. But with Ronald Koeman there, his primary target is Gini Wijnaldum from Liverpool. So it's whether to be seen if Barca firm up their interest again. But for me, it seems that Guendouzi is waiting for that next tier up, so to speak, in terms of team. But whether that will come, I'm not too sure.
Okay, all right. Let's kind of wind down. Kind of, Freddie, we'll bring you back. We're gonna get your insight on Fulham in just a moment. But let's go down the roster because it's so lengthy of players who are in and out of the fans. We love them, we hate them, we want to bring them back, we want to send them out. Three names that were supposed to be gone are still, I guess we'll put them in limbo. And I don't know their status for Fulham. I'm talking about Lucas Torreira, Sead Kolasinac, and Socrates. I mean, we saw Socrates posting this photo in his new kit on his Instagram today. But again, heard earlier in the week that deals for those players were close to done or done. What is their status going into Saturday? Can we expect any of those three in uniform on the squad?
Well, yeah, ultimately, the needs of the squad comes first, so they can still be a part of the squad, but still know in themselves, and also everyone around them know that they're likely not to be here for the whole season. You think back to last season, a good example is Nacho Monreal. There was a lot of noise about the fact that he could be moving, but he still started last season with us. He was trusted by Unai Emery, eventually ended up moving on, but he was still part of the squad in the early days of the season, and an important part of the squad. So it's just about whether the club get the right offers for these players. If those deals are completed, then who comes in to take their place. But I think as I was joining, I was a little bit late, but as I was joining, Sam was talking about, the being a little bit light at centre-back at the moment in terms of, Luiz's injury and a bit of uncertainty around certain other players. Gabriel obviously is delayed in his preparation. So, if Socrates is needed to come off the bench, I don't think he'd have any problem doing it. And I don't think it would affect things too much. But, there's still obviously a lot of noise around his future. Could stay, could go, nothing's decided yet. So while they're Arsenal players, there's every chance that they could be called upon.
Okay, and let's stay with you, because you were not available with us on Tuesday. We were going through a preview. Given what you know of the health, and health is a big consideration today on Thursday, with the match only 48 hours away, less than 48 hours away. We saw Arsenal working in a 3-4-3 formation for most of, say, the last half dozen games of the season. That was mainly due to injury. The light squad, they had to play Kieran Tierney in a back three. David Luiz was at the center of that. David Luiz is not available. Apparently, he's one of the reasons that they're so light at the back. He has a neck issue. We're reading. In your opinion, is Mikel Arteta going to stay with what got him here? Is in some ways, because of the injuries and the uncertainty and the turnover, might the Fulham game be like the next, just kind of continuation of the last season, where he tries to change as little as possible, and maybe bring in a guy like Gabriel late, and we may see again a 3-man back line, maybe with Saliba in the middle, but with Tierney and Rob Holding as on the sides as he's had before? Or might Mikel be a little bit more expansive, just because he does have players like Willian? He does have a little bit more firepower at his disposal now.
Yeah, I think I would expect us to kind of go into this season the same way that we finished last season, just for ease of transition. That's not to say that, look, we might experiment with other formations early in the season, but I just think, we finished last season pretty strongly. We haven't made wholesale changes to the team yet, in terms of, I think if you were to consider like a marquee signing would be somebody like Thomas Partey. I don't think we could really see Arsenal changing too much until that kind of big signing is made, and there's that you start to build the team around a few key players. And I feel like Mikel probably feels at the moment like his squad's not quite complete. So I would not be surprised, for ease of transition, to see us kind of go into the weekend and the upcoming games similar to how we did last season, and maybe try and tinker with things here and there. Like you said, he's got Willian at his disposal now, and players like that. So that will, definitely be a consideration, and give us more versatility, maybe to change things in game. But looking at Arsenal's injury list, I think it's David Luiz obviously is out for a month now. Callum Chambers still out. Martinelli's still out. Pablo Mari's still out, and Mustafi still out. So the majority of them, all barring Martinelli, are all defenders. So there's also an argument to say that playing with 3 centre-backs, when you're so light in the central defence department with injuries at the moment, could be a risk in itself. So maybe playing with 2 would be better. But remains to be seen. I still think that as much as we can, we'll try and play similar to how we finished last season. All
right. And your 2 cohorts, Ryan and Sam, were very bullish on this opening match. They said even with the injuries, they're expecting Arsenal to attack, that Arteta was not going to hold in the reins. What's your what's your gut tell you? What kind of outcome do you foresee for Arsenal against Fulham Saturday?
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. We're not going to go there and sit back. There's no doubt about that. We've seen that Mikel Arteta doesn't want to play that way. It's not the way that Arsenal fans want to see the team play, and it's not the way he wants to set his teams up. He wants to go places and win, but and play attractive football, but do it the smart way, and concede less chances. I think obviously it's going to be a difficult game because Fulham have just come up. Seems like they're doing some quite good business, maybe a bit smarter than their gung-ho approach that they adopted last time they came up. So I expect it to be a tough game. They're going to be confident. They've not got much to lose. Opening day against a big team, it's the perfect way for them to start the season well. So I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal do start the game quite cagey, not through intentionally, but just a little bit of apprehension there. But I fully expect us to be able to do the business. We've got more than enough firepower to do so. We should hopefully be buoyed by the fact that Aubameyang's clearly going to stay, whether they announce it or not, before the game. And we've got a good record at Craven Cottage as well. That doesn't always count for much, but they've got no fans in. They don't have the most lively fan base in the world anyway. But they're not going to have that, be buoyed by their fans on the opening day. So I think we'll get the job done.
Do you have a score that you want to put forward? Take a shot. We've all done it. So
2-1 Arsenal. I'll go
2-1. Okay, that was my score. So I'm comfortable with that prediction. Sam, has anything changed your mind? Anything tactically, looking at this match a little bit further, where you say, okay, injury reports, guys coming back, guys in training, anything? Well, let's start with this, and we'll kind of wind back around. What lineup do you foresee, and what formation do you foresee on Saturday from the club?
I think we could potentially see a 4-3-3 because I know it's only a training picture, but one of the new coaches is standing with Arteta with his hands clearly as 2 there, 1 there. Mm-hmm. So that potentially to me looks like the middle of midfield is going to be Actually, no, not a 4-3-3, a 4-2-3-1. As I said last time, I think that Mesut Ozil is going to be involved. As I said on Tuesday, I think that he potentially would be starting because it's a lot easier to get into a rhythm of the game, starting the game, rather than having to come on, say, 60, 70 minutes, then have about 5 to 10 minutes, try and get yourself up to the pace of the game and try and put an impact there. So I think that potentially we're going to see a backline of Leno, Bellerin, Holding, Gabriel, Tierney, then Xhaka and Ceballos in the 2 deeper midfielders. We would have Saka on the left. No, sorry, William on the left. Have Ozil in the middle, Pepe on the right, and Aubameyang up top. I would probably see William coming into the number 10, into the number 10 as the game goes on, and Saka coming out onto the left-hand side. Well, that's if he's not injured, because obviously nobody's really seen him since he got withdrawn from the England under-23 game.
Freddie, is that a concern for you? Any questions about Saka's health? And do you anticipate a slightly different lineup? We talked about 3 men in the back, but how do you see Arsenal lining up, given who's training, who's new, who's fit, etc.?
Yeah, I haven't looked too much into Bukayo Saka. Is there talk that he's injured then? I must have missed.
Well,
Sam, you saw him come off. There's some questions, I guess. I don't want to say concerns. That might be a little overdoing it, but
yeah.
I think that he was withdrawn before the game, and nothing's really been said therefore after. So to my knowledge, I'm not overly sure.
Yeah. No, I think to my knowledge, there's nothing serious there. I think I would be surprised if he's not involved at the weekend. he's pretty much almost one of the first names on the team sheet last season at times. And considering the issues that we've got in certain other positions, he offers us a lot of versatility. So definitely see him being involved. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised to see us line up very similar to how we did last season towards the end of the season. I'm also excited to see how we can integrate Willian in. Because I think he's going to give us a lot more versatility going forward. Obviously, everyone knows what his work rate's like. And also, we struggled massively to create chances. So I'm not exactly sure, of course, how he's going to decide to set the team up on the opening day. But what I do think is we are going to see Willian get used in a number of different positions this season, potentially for quite a few games centrally, depending on who we sign. And also, obviously, out wide, where we know he specialises. I think he can add a lot in terms of, chances created and hopefully offer us a goal threat, although his numbers aren't the best in that regard. But yeah, interested to see how he's brought in.
You bring up an interesting point, because when he was signed, there was some discussion. Of course, this was the time that Philippe Coutinho was being mooted. And a lot of people, there was the talk that they both were coming, and then it was like, no, Coutinho's not coming. And one of the reasons offered was that Willian can play centrally, as you said. Mesut Ozil's coming back. We talked about him a little bit on Tuesday, but I'll give you the question. I mean, we don't know if Mesut Ozil is a 90-minute man at this point. We don't know if he's a 70-minute man at this point. Might Willian be that kind of glue piece where maybe Ozil starts, as Sam was suggesting, and then maybe around 60, 65 minutes, you could see Willian either coming in off the bench going centrally, or if he starts moving inside, and then maybe Saka comes wide. Is that the kind of play that we might see early on as everybody acclimates to the new campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised to see Mesut Ozil getting too many starts, but I completely agree with the sentiment. He's never been a 90-minute man, even at Real Madrid when he was absolutely on top of the world, and in his early days at Arsenal as well. He's never really been a 90-minute player. Always was subbed off around 70, 75 minutes under Arsene Wenger. And before that with Mourinho. I think, that's what the club are trying to achieve in terms of having players that can really be effective in different areas. It's all very well saying, we've got a player that can play right wing or maybe left wing sometimes and behind the striker, but are they really effective in all those positions? And I think what we're trying to do is be smart. And you look at teams like Man City have done it for a while. Signing players who are effective in multiple positions means that you can switch your game plan. It means that if you have an injury, you can adapt. It means that if you need to make a sub, or someone's tired, or you want to change, spring a surprise on your opponents, it means you can just move players seamlessly, move Willian central, use Saka out wide in a more advanced position or whatever. I think it's definitely something we'll see more of. And that's why I was particularly, I wouldn't say excited, but I was very much for the Willian transfer, because on a free transfer, someone that offers you so many options like that is really valuable.
Okay, Sam, any surprises? I mean, we haven't talked about that, the tactical fluidity or any tactical surprises that as you ponder the game, you ponder the lineups that come to you that might be new to the fans with this new lineup of players that Mikel has at his disposal.
The only real surprise I could really foresee is Willian playing centrally, but for me, it really depends on what formation that we're playing, because potentially you could use Willian as one of the wing backs because he's very good in his defensive output. But yeah, for me, it really depends what formation that we're playing. But depending on that formation, the fluidity throughout the team, obviously the team knows very well how to play the 3-4-3. I think if we are going to change that, Arteta would have done the formation training throughout this week, just to make sure that everybody knows their role. Everyone knows what to do in certain scenarios. He would have put in game scenarios. So I firmly believe that our fluidity within the team is not going to be an issue, because we all know how much Arteta loves to get down to the attention to detail. That's one thing that we're really not going to have to worry about this year. And sometimes that attention to detail on the training field wins you the game. So I think Fulham will set up for a certain formation. But then again, I'll say that we've seen it before with Mikel. He would set up the game in the 3-4-3, so the other team is expecting that, and then within about 10-15 minutes it completely changes, so the other team has then got to scrap their game plan and totally adapts to a completely new formation. So it might be a case of Mikel doing that, but with that we'll have to see what will happen in game.
All right, we don't have to wait long to see that. Okay, we're again 2 days away, and you know, it's kind of a gift. Arsenal opens the entire Prem season. We don't have to wait till the end of the weekend. We don't have to wait till Monday. Thankfully, we're the first game. Gentlemen, some questions in chat. We've been talking about a lot of different transfers, a lot of prospective transfers. We haven't mentioned the two big names that dominate this show week after week after week, and we've received questions about them. So let's talk about them. I'm talking about obviously about Thomas Partey and Aouar. Freddie, some reports, I don't know how credible they are, today that Arsenal were preparing a second bid. This coming, I think, a day or so after Juninho was saying on a radio interview a couple of days ago. We mentioned it on the Tuesday pod that he knows Edu very well, and of course he knows Arsenal really appreciate the player. He was very complimentary, was being very diplomatic, but let it be known that Arsenal had not gone beyond that initial bid that was rejected. There was, I believe, Guendouzi plus cash, but it seems that the wheel is turning now, and there's some indications Arsenal may be prepared to go beyond just mere interest and really kind of push another bid forward. Do you have anything to add for all the eager fans out there? We get a lot of questions about this.
Yeah, I don't even know if that first bid per se was a bid. It's been reported by some who I trust, and also the way that those reports were worded. I think it was more a conversation. We're interested in Aouar. Can you keep us up to date with that situation? Would you be interested in a cash plus Guendouzi swap? Their response obviously was, no, we're not interested in that. Here's our price. And I'm sure they said, yes, we'll keep you up to date with what's happening. They'll give, if Arsenal want information on, you know, what's happening, what offers there are for him, what price is going to make it, you know, an attractive enough offer for them to let him go, they'll give us that. So that's a good position to be in. But I don't think there's been any real official bids tabled. What I would say is that Thomas Partey, who I'm sure we're going to come on to in a minute, as we usually do, is definitely the more feasible of the two, and the one that Arsenal will be focusing on more so, I'm sure. If and when they can get that deal done, I think is a time that they would maybe, or even if that deal was completely ruled out, then maybe they'd have more time and energy to focus on putting a deal together for Aouar. But I think the majority of their focus will be on Partey at the moment, because his fee is a release clause, and that will have to be paid up front, as Sam has rightly picked up on before. So that will be their priority at the moment, because that's one that really they can get done if they do raise the money for the release clause and everything goes to plan in that way.
All right, Sam, I'm going to let you address something that we talked about in the group, and I don't know if we've talked about it on the pod, and that was the timing of these. As Freddie is kind of suggesting, that Partey as the priority because of the release clause might be of the two big deals Arsenal would approach that first. We were kind of pondering the reverse, that maybe because there's gamesmanship involved and there's potential for swap, because obviously Atletico Madrid are interested in Alexander Lacazette. They need a striker. Might that push Arsenal to pursue Aouar first? I mean, there are two ways of approaching this. What's your thought? Does timing really matter in this case?
Well, we say about timing. Time is dwindling down day by day. But my thoughts on it was that potentially we would approach the Aouar situation first, because we know how difficult a loose is to deal with. So if we was to raise the money, but I say if we was to raise the money, I think that we've already got the money. I think the case of the matter is at the moment is that it's our squad size that's the issue. Once we can sort that out, then obviously we can see a lot more movement in both cases. But I think that, yeah, as I say, I think we'd approach Lyon first just to get that deal kind of sewn up, so we don't be seen to be chucking money around. So Luz can then go, okay, it was, as it's been reported, 60 million euros. I'll up this to 70, just to squeeze some extra money out of us. I think that potentially that we could go to Lyon first, say, here's the money, we'll do this in instalments. But ultimately, I do see both players ending up, Aouar and Partey, at Arsenal. Obviously, it's been well documented for a long time with Partey what certain situations are. His dad coming out saying Arsenal would be a good move. We've had players coming out from his national team to say that it's a good move. Obviously, the player, I believe the player himself is very interested. So I think, as we've alluded to on the pod already, that we're just waiting for the dominoes to happen. But also, one thing that's was reported today is Aouar said to Lyon that he wants to leave. So that, to me, that really forces Lyon's hand, because they know that they need to sell. Can they then sell to the price they want, knowing that if they don't, they'll have an extremely unhappy player on their hands? As you say, there's a lot of gamesmanship happening at the moment. So we could potentially be in contact with Aouar, say, look, we want you to come. Arteta loves you, the board loves you. Edu can say to him, I love you, I want you in the team. Could potentially see a transfer request going in there. But again, that depends on the relationship with Aouar and Lyon. But I think next week we're really going to see everything ramp up, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that, as I say, I think both players will ultimately end up here.
Okay, and Freddie, I'm going to give you the last word. You were able to, couldn't join us at the very beginning, but we talked about the fact that everything in the transfer market, the Martinez move, the Torreira move, the Hector Bellerin move, Kolasinac, who we didn't talk about this, but all of the other ancillary moves are all viewed through the prism of, will they help us get Partey and Aouar? And that's kind of, and if one little tiny move, if El Neni doesn't move, people are throwing up their hands like, oh no, we're not going to get Aouar. Oh no, we're not going to get Partey. Looking at the bigger holistic picture, has anything shaken your confidence that these are still the two primary targets, and then B, Arsenal has a legitimate chance of getting both? I'm not going to ask you to rate them one or the other one, but it seems that they're still pursuing them.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's funny. You'll probably wonder where I'm going with this when I first mentioned these words, but I was watching the Spurs All or Nothing documentary the other day, and Mourinho and Levy were having a chat, and Daniel Levy said to him, look, Jose, as we all know, all the movement happens in the last week of the window. Now, that was in relation to January, but we've seen it in the summer as well. As things draw closer to the end, teams start to move, things start to happen. Players, clubs know, agents know that things are coming towards an end and they need to make the moves happen. Otherwise, they're going to lose a chance. And so that that pattern will be the same this summer for sure. Now, in relation to those two players, like I said, I think Partey is the one that definitely is the target sort of player that we've lacked for a long time. And that I think we find it more difficult to cope without than we would if we didn't have an Aouar type, although I do think he would benefit us massively, but we could compensate in a way. So yeah, it's to do with selling players for space and for money. I think they're both still obviously targets. Certainly they would be more confident at this point of getting Partey, I'm sure. But if they can free up the space and the fee to put an attractive offer for Aouar, it's still possible with the time that's left in the window.
And there still is time left in the window. Let's all keep that in mind. All right. So again, Freddie gets the final word on this pod. We want to we want to thank all of you for joining us here, Saved by the Bellerin on Sports Talk Line Network. We're doing this twice a week from the now to the end of the window. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you coming in, and we appreciate all of you come in after the fact. Our numbers are growing, and again, we feel you, we know you, and we're just so thrilled that you think of us when you think about Arsenal Football Club. And on that happy note, for Sam, for Freddie, for me, for Ryan, who's not here but will be joining us again shortly, he's with his brand new baby girl. We want to bid you good evening.